Start for the win. It's good. Shevsky takes flight as SGA plays through the contact, banks it into the
foul. What is up? Welcome to the Uncontested Podcast post-game edition. Bumping that new post-game intro. You know we had to get a new one in here. I am your host, Jacob Niffen, joined by my boy, Taylor Peterson.
Basketball is back. Also, how did it feel, Jacob, being in the stands and getting to witness the very first game of a future Hall of Famer Josh Giddey's career?
It was weird being back in the arena after 19 months. It was a little strange, but it was good nonetheless. So the Thunder drop their first game tonight of the preseason, 113-97. Taylor, just a quick recap of this one against the Charlotte Hornets. Game started off semi-competitive. Thunder fell behind decently in the first quarter, and then it was just kind of all downhill from there. Not a whole lot of competitive basketball. The Thunder made a run there. Was it at the end of the half? Made a run there at the end of the half.
The Lou Dort takeover, Jacob.
Yes. Well, trust me, we will get there. I leaned over to Kamiar. I said, don't call it a comeback. And it was most definitely not a comeback. So thank God we didn't call it a comeback.
As quickly as the Thunder cut it to 12, the Hornets regained a 22-point lead, I think.
Exactly.
It was
and
very quick.
It was just kind of all downhill from there. Some stats for the night. The Thunder only shot 38% from the field compared to the Hornets' 49%. Thunder get out-rebounded by 11. Turnovers were even. Fouls were pretty much even. Thunder made 15 three-point field goals. I guess I didn't realize that they made 15 threes tonight.
I didn't realize that either.
Free throws split down the middle at 16 made apiece. Hornets had a few more assists and way more blocks, 10 blocks to 4. And the points in the paint, Taylor, is the big one, 62-36. The Thunder really with nobody to compete against Miles Bridges, who threw down dunk after dunk after dunk.
We're going to see that a lot this season.
Biggest lead for the Hornets, 25 points. After that recap, I guess the first thing, Taylor, we should mention, starting lineup tonight. Is it what you expected? I mean, we knew Derek Favors wasn't going to play, so I think that we believed that Isaiah Roby would get the start at center. But besides that, was it what you thought?
So we're recording this podcast Monday after the game. So some of our listeners have probably already heard our podcast, our weekly podcast that we dropped. Recorded Sunday night, dropped Sunday night. Probably listened to it on Monday. And this was actually the starting lineup I predicted for the regular season. Although we didn't really dive into that because I know we're trying to save that for the next two podcasts, group podcasts coming up, our bets podcast and then our Thunder season prediction podcast. So I was kind of surprised, I think, to see Giddey out there already because Daigneault had some comments during training camp this past week saying that don't expect my lineups to be basically set in stone and the starting lineup doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the starting lineup for the Thunder coming into regular season, but it certainly felt that way. And after today's performance from Josh Giddey, which we'll get into, I don't really see how you change that up. But all that being said, I was a little surprised to see Giddey go ahead and get the nod there. But I think this is probably maybe closer than I expected heading into this preseason game for the starting lineup. I think this is pretty close to what it will be outside of the center position.
Interesting. I think that's fair. We should probably talk about some individual performances, things we saw that we thought were good, things we saw that we thought were bad, et cetera, et cetera. So let's start off with, we've already mentioned him a few times. We got to talk about him. Our first extended look at Joshua Giddey.
Giddy up.
I'm impressed.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a hot take. It is not a stretch to say he's the best passer on the team.
Oh, 100%.
After preseason game number 1, he is the best passer on the team. Taylor, there were some passes he threw tonight that I was just like in awe of.
And you called us, Jacob. Again, I don't mean to like keep bringing up last night's podcast, but I'm pretty sure it was last night's podcast. If not, it was a podcast from, within the past week or so where you mentioned, I think you asked the question to us, presented the question, is it a hot take to say that Josh Giddey will be the best passer on the team starting the season? I think again, first preseason game, disclaimer, all of that. But I think the most impressive thing that I think that you're getting at that stood out to me, there were just so many tangibles that you could take from what we saw from Giddey tonight that will absolutely translate in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of those passes that you're mentioning, for example, I think the biggest one that's already making the rounds on twitter.com is the cross-court pass he made to, I want to say it was Teo on the wing.
Who missed the three.
And then
Giddey got the putback
crashes the boards, get the rebound, and it's an and one. I mean, it's just absurd.
I thought his best pass of the night came later in the third quarter.
Yeah.
On a pick and roll with Mike Muscala, where Giddey went off the dribble, lefty bullet pass to a rolling Mike who caught it and tried to reverse it and missed.
It. Yeah, that was fantastic.
That pass, I was just like, holy smokes. How did he see that and how did it get there?
Yeah, that's fair.
He had one that was a pick and roll with Isaiah Roby where he took a dribble with the right hand and then took another dribble with the right hand, but that second dribble was actually a bounce pass that ended up right in Isaiah Roby's pocket for a layup. Like, it's really, really impressive the way he can pass the ball. And 8 of 12 from the field. He shot the ball well, especially from 3, 2 of 4 from 3. I thought the 2 he missed looked very awkward and the form looked kind of janky and rushed.
Yep.
But the ones that he caught with his feet set had a much more fluid motion and he splashed them through. And he's not going to shoot 50% from 3 on the season. But if he takes 4 threes a game, I think that's a great sign. Absolutely, especially with some of the lineups that we saw out there, which we can get into as well. But one thing, speaking on his shooting form, in this prior to the summer league and throughout the offseason, we saw videos of his shooting motion where he kicked that right foot out, which is a tendency some shooters do have. That already has been fixed, just being in an NBA program. And like you said, that motion looked much better. If he can knock down threes at even just a slightly below average rate, I think that's going to open up so much for that starting lineup and those lineups where Josh Giddey is in there with guys like Shea and Lou. But to your point, I think just the thing that stood out the most to me that maybe I wasn't expecting so early on, because a lot of his minutes, or at least a lot of the plays that I'm thinking of from Josh Giddey were against some of elite NBA talent, right? The Hornet starters. And his confidence and his ability to read the game at a high level already is really what stood out to me. Like you mentioned, the passing and the balance between scoring and passing to teammates. I mean, even when he was in there with guys where he obviously is the most talented offensive player, he still knew when to pass and swing the ball and knew when to attack and try and create a shot, or rather to shoot the 3-point shot. And that's just it's almost a talent that can't be learned. It's just something that he possesses already. And that was really exciting. He's the second best player on the team at setting up offense. And I don't think it's particularly close. Shea is the best because of the gravity he has and what he can do scoring the ball. But Giddey he finds guys, he gets them in their correct positions. He gets them where they need the ball. He ended tonight with 18, 7, and 3. 7 rebounds, 3 assists. It probably should have been like 18, 7, and 7, if we're being honest. I tried looking up potential assists, and NBA stats does not have that yet. I love it. Our guy Del Lott on YouTube says, I came here for the Josh Giddey hot takes, so let them fly. Del Lott, have you put money down on Josh Giddey Rookie of the Year yet? Because if not, you probably should. Hot take? I almost tweeted from the account, when do we get to do a 2021 redraft? Yeah. There you go. Now we're talking. Josh was very, very impressive tonight. Let's swing the pendulum to the opposite end, Taylor. I'm interested if you agree with me. That's no fun. Yeah, well, so we're on the positive side of the pendulum. Let's swing it to the negative side. I know. And then we'll hit the middle. I think the opposite end, for me, is Darius Baisley.
I knew you were going to bring up Baisley.
I don't want to.
And I'm with you. I'm not disagreeing. I just knew that's where you were going to go.
He didn't look good tonight.
No.
I mean, am I missing something?
No.
Is there something that you see out there that makes you think that I'm crazy?
Not at all. And I almost tweeted out. I think the only, and again, it's like it's unfair to like throw out the preseason disclaimer here, but then rave about Josh Giddey like we just did. I recognize that and I understand that, but I also understand that like there wasn't a set offense. They weren't running, their usual offense and plays. Where we've seen Baisley maybe thrive a little more than he did in like a situation like he did today. But even like that right there, that disclaimer I just threw out there, like just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? Because that's kind of the situation where you would have liked to see, would have liked to have seen Baisley show off some of his growth from the offseason. You would think that he would be able to take some of these players one-on-one, drive to the rim or kick out to shooters and create for others, knock down some open 3-point shots that he did get.
He nearly airballed a 3.
Good. Exactly.
We said it on last night's episode, Taylor. I said, you can't take a lot away from preseason, just like Summer League, but you'd rather see a guy play well in preseason than play bad in preseason. And that's exactly what I think Darius Baisley did today. Was he didn't play good. Now, again, one game. Yep. Let's see what the rest of preseason looks like. He might come out the next preseason game and drop 30.
Right.
I wasn't feeling it from Bays today.
He just kind of looked the same. There's a lot of tendencies that I saw from Baisley, especially on the offensive end, that just were very similar to what we saw the previous 2 seasons.
His one turnover was a really bad turnover. I felt like the team as a whole overpassed into turnovers a lot.
Shea falls in that category. Absolutely. Again,
there was a few of them where guys would get past their man and then pass. And I'm like, bro, you're at the rim. Like, take a layup. So, okay, let's swing back to the middle now. We had really good with Josh, bad with Baisley. What are some of the guys in the middle?
Oh, I thought you were going to throw out Lou in the middle. I was like, don't you dare. That's like back in the positives. Don't you dare, Jacob.
I think Poku goes in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he didn't have a great game. Had some turnovers. He had some really nice passes. The some 3-ball really looks a little turnovers. Some really bad turnovers. The 3-ball looks a little bit more effortless. Some of the turnovers not his fault. I think there was twice that he made passes that guys like just didn't rotate over, didn't catch, or like one in the third quarter he kicked to Teo who just like didn't grab the ball and watched it go out of bounds. So those aren't on him. He had like a really ill-advised floater, but then again, those flashes. The 3-ball, whenever he caught it and loaded it up, looked good. He had a elbow pull-up jumper, which I was not expecting. Yeah, so thoughts on Poku, Taylor?
I think you're spot on. It was a little bit of the same from last season where you see the highs and you see the lows. But you saw a little more consistency out there tonight. I think you see the game starting to slow down some for Poku, but it did take him a little bit to get into a rhythm. Like the thing that I found the most interesting, Jacob, is specifically, if I could talk from a lineup standpoint, when he was in there with guys like Shea and Dort, even Giddey, we saw those lineups go on runs against, largely sparked by Poku, right? Like I think of, he got a block on one end, led to a 3 on the other. Like there was like I want to say it was like a 5-6 point swing, largely sparked because of a plays that Poku made on both ends of the floor. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, he got a steal or somebody got a steal, kicked it out to Poku. He drove to the rim and just got his, what swatted. And that was the end of that run.
Yeah.
So it's the highs and the lows with Poku, right?
Exactly. He had that one play though in the third or fourth quarter where he like drove in with the left and went super high and then kind of jellied it into a finger roll.
Exactly.
Yeah, very impressive stuff.
The confidence is still there, and that's what matters with Poku, right?
Yeah. Nothing to really take away from Shea.
No.
As much as we love Shea, I don't think we got to talk about Shea a whole lot tonight. Shea's a known quantity, a known product. Not the greatest game, not the worst game.
We aren't going to see that leap or what he worked on in the offseason in a game like this, right?
Exactly.
Like he very much was going almost 70, 75% on purpose.
He was going through the motions, yeah.
Which is...
This was a glorified scrimmage.
Do that. He's probably told by the coach. I mean, I don't know that. I obviously have never been in a NBA franchise or organization off season or
Well, I know from
preseason.
experience. This is
Yeah,
what
right. Yeah, from
Coach
experience though,
Bell
the
told
coaches
him.
are probably telling him to take it easy.
Yeah.
For example, we saw Trae Young get a quad contusion, and PJ Tucker had a strained groin. So like, you don't want anything like that to ever happen.
Exactly.
Not a lot to take from there. I'm with you.
Let's talk a little Trey Man.
I am like so intrigued by Trey Man, Jacob.
He gets to his spots.
Yes, and he does the right things.
He's very shifty.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the one thing that upset me with Trey Man tonight. He missed 2 threes in the third quarter, got the ball swung to him at the top of the key, kind of to the right, had an open 3, and passed it up and put the ball on the floor and drove and kicked into a turnover.
And that's a rookie mistake.
He's got to shoot the ball when he's open. He has to.
He can shoot the ball. And that's why it's so frustrating to see him pass that up.
He needs to adopt. I think we've talked about this before. He needs the Nick Young, Swaggy P, Dion Waiters type mindset. Unload
Jacob,
the clip.
I'm going to, I know we're trying to keep this one kind of short, but I'm going to tell a short story here of my experience playing basketball at probably the highest level I played, which is not very high in comparison. But young Tayler, after not making the team at Owasso High School, played AAU with a team out in Tulsa, Gym Time Hoops. Shout out all my Gym Time Hoops friends. Let's just say I was the smallest and youngest player on that high school team. I was playing with high school seniors, a lot of them from East Central High. I would call it how it is. I was small, I was scrawny, and I was white. So every time, but the one thing I could do is I could shoot the ball, and I could shoot it from very far. So every single time they passed me the ball when I got playing time, shoot. And it took me a while, right? Like, I was timid. I got my shot swatted. But eventually, whenever I touched the ball, I started to shoot. And that's exactly what Trey Man's going to have to do. Obviously, not a lot of comparisons there outside of just, I think, the role that he can play for this team. If he can stretch the floor like that, that's going to be huge. And a lot of those lineups that we saw him with, especially if he's going to be one of the bigger guards in like a 2 or 3 guard lineup, he's got to be able to space the floor. He's got to be able to hit those outside shots, which I think he can. But like you said, he's got to take those shots.
He's got to unload the clip, man. Every time he's out there, he's got to unload the clip.
But I did like, I mean, not to just continue to talk, I did like his aggressiveness and being able to put the ball on the floor, too.
He had a few crossovers, too, where he created a ton of space, which is really exciting.
And I didn't realize he was that, like, even on TV, he looked bigger than I thought he actually was.
Yeah.
He obviously, but I think the promising thing with him is, like, he looks like he has a frame that can put on size, and that's going to be important for him moving forward.
Very much, very much. Any other, I mean, we don't really need to talk about Muscala, do we?
He got more burn than I thought he was going to, and it very much looked like Dagnott was like, have fun, go get in shape.
He is very fundamental defensively. If you focused on him whenever he got out there, put on a clinic. Like whenever they go to practice tomorrow, Coach Mark is going to throw on that film and say, hey, Biggs, JRE, Isaiah Roby, etc., watch what Muscala does for 5 minutes here. It's tons of I'm tagging the roller, I'm rotating back on the screen. I'm hedging over, I'm dropping back, I'm taking away the angle. Now I'm rotating back to my man. Just very active, very fundamental. And the man's got a strap.
Oh,
he's just got a strap.
Absolutely. I love Muscala. And here's the fun thing. It's like, I think at least for the first half of the season, when the Thunder are trying to be quote unquote competitive with at least playing their best players and throwing out these decent lineups, not preseason lineups, I think Muscala is going to get a lot of burn. And he's going to fit really well with these young guys. I think he'll be a great presence for these young guys on the court. And I'm with you.
I said we weren't going to talk about Muscala, and then we talked a lot about Muscala. We really don't need to talk about Isaiah Roby, do we?
No.
6 points on the night, 1 assist, 2 rebounds, whatever.
He looked bigger. He did. He looked physically bigger.
The hair smaller, which kind of threw me off.
Yeah. JRE was the first person off the bench. I don't know if that will continue.
Yeah.
He, again, just a fundamental player. Did some good things that go unnoticed, but didn't really have anything major. It just didn't have a lot of opportunity this game.
Aaron Wiggins comes off the bench late in the fourth, lights up 12 points.
I think
He's the
Wiggins.
good Wiggins, the better Wiggins. He got the vaccine without public shame.
Well, he might have more skill than the other Wiggins.
Oh!
No, that's false. He just might actually have the work ethic to put his skill to work. I am interested in Wiggins, especially with Lou, quote unquote, taking him under his wing. He absolutely presents a lot of two-way opportunity. And so I think that kind of like brings me. I have two kind of themes that I just kind of want to touch on, Jacob. I think before we head out, unless you have any more individual players.
Oh, well, rough night for my guy Ty.
Yeah. Oh, it was. He's fine though. That's one of those players that's like he's fine.
Teo wasn't great.
Same thing for Teo, but you're right. Like, and that kind of goes into one of the bigger themes I was alluding to. There's so many guys on this team. Like, to some of the points you've been bringing up in the offseason, Jacob, Teo could be one of those guys that just kind of gets overshadowed because like
squeezed out,
the opportunity.
One more individual guy we got to talk about. Lou Dort.
Oh yeah, good point.
That
looks fantastic.
Highlight of the game was Lou's 5-point swing, the 3 he hit, and then the baseline cut. I have never seen Lou get up like that, Taylor. That dunk.
You tweeted it, and that was perfect.
He talked about how he shed a little bit of pounds, but kept the strength on. That's exactly what that was. That was, I'm down 5 or 10 pounds, and I have a little extra lift. When we've seen Lou dunk in the past, it's I get the ball up over the rim, and I just kind of hang it on there. This one was like I'm cocking it back and slamming it down on the baseline. Just incredibly, we got it right here for you guys if you're on the live stream. Very, very impressive by Lou. I didn't know he could get up like that. That's big time stuff. If Lou's added that level of athleticism and can leverage it both offensively and defensively, that's a jump.
Hey, that's one way to finish more efficiently around the rim, right?
No shit, right?
No, you're exactly right. That was impressive. It could be like even I think the thing that stood out to me is not even just Lou, but just like the normal NBA player, that driving lane that he had, he beat his defender, just expected him to lay it up. But he like made the extra like Russell Westbrook, Hamidou Diallo effort, right? To cock it back and make that dunk. And you're right. He looks leaner. He looks lighter, and that's like, but still obviously very strong on both ends of the floor. But the thing that I love maybe the most from Lou tonight was the confidence to continue to hit the three still there.
Mm-hmm.
And he made them.
He never hesitated. He caught it.
Right.
He fired it 3 of 6 tonight from 3.
And also the chemistry as expected. This is not a negative, just as expected. The chemistry with Giddey and Shea, just from a spacing standpoint, and even Giddey with that starting lineup, I think the chemistry and just like the feel for spacing and how all those players fit together, it's not there, and it's not going to be for a while. We all knew that. But Shea and Lou's chemistry stood out to me because it's still so sharp after playing 2 years together now. I noticed that from the very beginning. Shea would drive and just like some of those careless passes that we don't necessarily love him taking. Like you mentioned, some of the turnovers, not just from Shea, but everybody driving into traffic, kicking out to a shooter. Shea can make those kind of quote unquote careless, no look passes to Lou because he knows exactly where Lou's going to be.
Exactly.
And I noticed that from the very beginning of the game.
You want to take a few questions before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. First one asks, Poku's shot has a lower release now? ?
I don't know if I'd say lower.
Yeah, I think it looks smoother
because he had a line drive shot last season.
Yeah, but I don't think so. I need to watch more. Also, I watched it in the arena tonight versus on TV, which is much different.
Fair.
Next one. Should we trade Bays?
No. Hang in there.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well.
Give him more opportunity.
Plus, trading Bays doesn't really get you anything right now. Right, the value's not high. Last one. How do y'all feel about Giddey playing with Shea? He seemed much more comfortable alone, but I figure you have to get them comfortable playing with each other. Taylor, you kind of just alluded to this.
Yep.
I think they will be fine together. It's just finding a rhythm, and that takes time. If you've ever played any level of basketball, it just takes some time to find some rhythm with guys, especially two guys that need the ball in their hands.
Exactly.
I think they will figure it out. And the good thing is, like, even in Giddey's post-game availability today, he talked about how Shea makes the game so much easier for him. I think they're going to learn how to play off of one another. And the goal is definitely not to make it like a Russ, KD, your turn, my turn type of basketball, but rather learn how to leverage them off of each other. And I think one way they can do that, Giddey is really good at moving off the ball.
Absolutely.
He had a couple of really well-timed cuts tonight. Was it that third quarter, Taylor, or that fourth quarter where Giddey caught a pass, hit a head fake, a back down dribble, like a Hakeem Olajuwon, the dream shimmy, and then turned around into like a one-legged fadeaway and it rimmed out. If that one would have went down, you would have seen me on the broadcast as one of the 100 people there tonight, screaming his head off because that was a move.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I also don't think we mentioned Giddey dropping Kelly Oubre like there was a sniper in the arena.
Wild. That was
crossed him, dropped him, and got to the rim.
That's one thing I didn't mention with Giddey, but and I won't go into detail on this. His athleticism that I saw tonight surprised me a little bit, Jacob. I didn't know he was that athletic.
Yeah, that and the handle.
I kind of expected the handle, but the strength and athleticism, that I was not expecting that.
Hey, I tweeted it from the pod account. Kid's got sauce.
Sauce.
Too much sauce.
I love it. But you're right. Like some of those passes and plays, his ability to create, I think it's not only, he mentioned Shea opening up the floor, Shea and Lou opening up the floor for him, but I think his passing ability and his playmaking ability is going to open up the floor for those two as well. And one thing that was kind of fun, just I guess maybe to end on this, is you were talking about the post-game availability. And Nick tweeted out from his personal account, Giddey mentioned, one thing that kind of took him back maybe, obviously, well, nothing surprises me, but, and one thing he mentioned was the pace of the NBA game and the size and strength. Well, the fact that that's him tonight was him trying to adjust to the pace of the NBA game makes me very optimistic,
especially
about his future.
Defensively. I thought he held up against Gordon Hayward really well. He struggled with LaMelo Ball. Who doesn't?
Right.
His foot speed isn't all the way there, but he even mentioned it. It's baby steps defensively, but I thought he held up. He is very good positionally. I think Coach Mark compared him to Gallinari defensively in the past. And I think that's a good comp. He knows where to be. He moves his feet. He gets in position. He plays the positional defense. He's never going to be a Lou Dort. But if you can get him to average.
He has the size and the strength, and he has the IQ. But unlike Gallinari, he has the speed and the ability to get out there on other defenders.
I love it. This has been the Josh Giddey pod, rightfully so. The kid hooped tonight.
Yeah, right. That was the biggest theme I think from the first preseason game. Now we have to wait stinking 6 days.
Next Sunday.
Brutal.
All right, well, we're gonna get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed the new post-game tunes. Silva killed it on this one. Big fan.
Banger.
Absolute banger. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining the Uncontested Podcast, our first post-game pod of the year, preseason number 1. Once again, the Oklahoma City Thunder drop at 113-97. As Taylor just mentioned, we will be back next Sunday night, breaking down postseason game number 2. That one will be against the Milwaukee Bucks. And doing our preseason bets podcast, where all of us podcast hosts will make bets against one another on Thunder and league-wide props. So make sure you join us next Sunday night. The live stream starts at 9 p.m. or whenever the Thunder game is over. It does kick off at 6:30, so we should be looking at right at 9 o'clock. You guys have a great rest of your week. Hope you enjoyed live basketball. We may drop something special for you guys later on this week. A little something to finish off your week, get you through the rest of the work week. But until then, and as always, Thunder up.